Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Turn the TV off. Get outside. Garden, walk, fish, whatever. Don't be absolutely stuck on stupid and waste your life doing nothing. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. Followed by Patriot. To start things off, I got to keep saying to myself, it's Tuesday, Tuesday. Good morning. And a good morning to you. I probably will make many mistakes saying today's Monday, but it's not Monday. It's Tuesday because of the Memorial Day weekend. Good morning and welcome to Zeb at the Ranch. And, of course, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations are open and serving you with a safe, clean environment and the best in tires. You stop in and see them today. Your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. Don't forget, too, our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And Greystone Crossing Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Hayburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Well, good morning again to you, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, everybody must be sleeping in. Good morning, and thank you very much, Wheels. Appreciate it. And right now, let's go to the weather forecast brought to everybody by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 west of Hayburn. Hello, Roger. Big weekend under their belt, and right now, everybody says, hey, I got a lot of projects I've got to finish, whether it's in the garden or on the lawn, or you're putting up some kind of a great wall around your home or whatever it be. Hey, they've got all the tools, the best of tools and equipment for whatever you need, both long and short-term rental. You get a hold of them today. K&R Rental, 256 South, 600 west of Hayburn. Number to call, 678-3122. And right now, here's Gina with the weather. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
I swear we had it this morning, sir, but I'm going to have to check out why it's not playing. So,
well, you do that and hurry back and tell me, because I need to have that weather forecast on there. And during the interim, I'll tell you, partly cloudy, I think, is predicted for today. With right now, we're looking at 57 degrees. And the high, they think, will be, with the partly cloudy conditions, probably about 75. And we'll have an update, a better weather forecast in just a few minutes. And again, we want to thank K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 west of Hayburn on the Burley-Paul Highway, 678-3122. Caller, I'll be right there. Stand by. I also want to acknowledge our dear friend Kevin and the whole crew over at Daryl's Cleaners. I certainly hope that Kevin is feeling much, much, much better after a very dangerous fall, and he's a good guy. Good people over there with the best of dry cleaning and taking care of your clothes. I urge you to stop in at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley, Daryl's Cleaners. And by the way, if you don't have time to do your washing, they will wash, dry, fold, and iron all your clothes at Daryl's Cleaners. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir.
My friend.
Did you have a good weekend?
I'm hesitating and I'm thinking and I'm going to say yes, it was a blessing in many regards, and then other things we wanted to do we didn't get done.
Yeah, but it was a pretty good weekend overall, and I read something Friday.
Uh-oh.
And I can read. It just really struck home. It says, if you want to thank a vet, be an American worth fighting for.
Wow. That's pretty heavy and how true when you really think about it. If you want to thank a vet, be an American worth fighting for. You know, there's a lot to be said of the people that I know that have served in the military, almost to a person, when talking about their service and everything. They just like to feel appreciated, and I think it goes along with what you're saying.
It does. You know, and it just, when I read that, it just sent a chill up my spine thinking, how many families have lost sons, fathers, uncles, and aunts to keep this country free, and here we're bickering and want to turn it into a socialist country. Why did they fight for it?
Now, tell me something right now, and I can't take a lot of time now because of the commercials, but I want you to expand on this just a little bit. You know, how? And again, Doug, I'm not trying to be vague, and I'm certainly not trying to be prejudiced, even though it comes across that way, against Joe Biden and the Democratic Party. I don't like them. But how in the world could they, with a candidate that's been living in the basement for the last 71 days and basically suffering from dementia, can't put a constructive sentence or paragraph together, and has to be bulked up by his crew or his campaign managers in order to get out in front of the public, which he did on a limited basis this weekend. How can he and his philosophies and his anti-energy programs, everything, how can he be beating in the polls Donald Trump?
That tells you one thing right there. The polls are just a bunch of garbage. They are just a political tool for politicians to scare people, to make people think that, hey, this guy's smart, this guy's good. I watched a little clip on him on The View, and they asked about that gal that, said he molested her in the hallway there.
Ms. Reed, yes.
Yes, and he started about 30 different sentences and never finished a single one. And Joy Reid had to step in and give him an answer to go with.
Yeah. And here's something else. Just last week, and I know a lot of you are going to say, oh, well, Joe just made a misstep. Well, Joe makes too many missteps. When he was being interviewed by a black commentator on a black talk show, Biden made the comment that, hey, brother, you ain't black if you don't vote for me. Now, if Trump would have said something like that, they would be preparing the tar and feathers.
Exactly. But every station stood up and said he apologized for it. That's exactly it. So they're giving him a pass on his gaffes. So when he is president and he has the button, the nuclear codes to launch a missile, and he does one, are they going to give him an apology on that one too?
Yeah. Does it come across everybody's emails as an oops?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so this November is a choice between America, the way we know it, the way we love it, or a socialist country.
Or a vote for Venezuela.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. I got to run. I got a call waiting and everything. Doug, God bless you, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, everybody, let's do what we can for our senior centers. I know we can't go there and eat now, but they're struggling. They need to pay the rent still, pay the utility bills, so help them what we can.
All right, buddy. Appreciate that. Thank you very, very much. Hey, caller number 2, I'll be right there, I promise. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. And I mean this when I say the word all. All. 3-letter word, but it means so much. All your heating, cooling, and electrical needs, with the best of people, the most knowledgeable people, the most experienced people serving you. Don't put it off. You have questions, they have answers. 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 678-0459. They're open 7:30 to 5 Monday through Friday. They are the best, providing warm winters and cool summers at Ramsey Heating and Electric. Also, real fast, I want to acknowledge our friends at Dino Septic Service. Oh, my. You know, they've been a blessing to have on the air because I know their business, I know how they helped us, and I know how they can help you. First-hand knowledge, testimonial, they are the best. Dino Septic Service serving you. Bit my tongue, sorry for that. Numbers to call and have them go to work for you, 436-6526 or 678-1638. And I mean fast, fair, friendly service. They will bedazzle you with their fancy footwork and getting right to you to serve you. Septic tank pumping, liquid waste removal, sewer and sink drain lines cleaned. They are the best. Dino's Septic Service. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. Have you noticed lately that you haven't heard much from the Postal Service? It seems like about every 2 or 3 years, they're going to Congress and asking for more money. Well, you know, FedEx and UPS are very, very well-run companies. They don't ask for an increase in anything. If they need an increase, they will increase it, but they live within their means. And when's the last time you've seen a postal worker bound out of his truck to deliver something? I cannot remember.
Well, wait a minute. I'm gonna have to say I don't agree. And Keith, I love you as a dear friend, but I got to tell you I don't agree. Our Murtaugh Post Office, I've got to say, and I've got to brag on them. And I'm not saying it's indicative or an example of how every post office is, but I'm going to brag on ours. Not only is the postal supervisor there excellent and really cares about the people, but also the delivery people. And many times, with parcels that have come that they can't leave up at the mailbox, they will take the time and the courtesy to drive up our yard and put them on our porch or hand deliver them to us. So I am definitely not going to agree with you on all. All is an all-encompassing word, and it's not true.
Well, I think you're exactly right. But it seems like the bigger the city, the more laziness or whatever occurs. You know, you take like Burley here, I think we have a good postal service. But the point I'm trying to make here is they want to come up with a package tax. We talked about that the other day.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. So why don't they get Congress to pass a package tax, and then they turn around and give that money to the Postal Service?
I do not
have to make a big fuss.
I do not understand, and I don't think that anybody that says they do, I think, is blowing a lot of smoke from a little fire. I do not understand how the Postal Service got in this much arrears over the years. I will say that for people that say, well, we can do away with the Postal Service and we can go all privatized, et cetera. No, wait, whoa. I'm not sure you really are studying or knowing what you're talking about. We have been blessed with a great Postal Service. There's got to be some answers someplace, Keith. I don't think, and this is not out of disrespect to you whatsoever, I don't think you have the answers. I know I don't have the answers, but it's going to take some diligent study so that we can maintain a very reliable, dependable postal service, and you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Something's got to be done, not lip service. Something's got to be done now.
Zeb, I'll make a statement and I'll stick by it. The postal workers are usually as good as you could ask for, but the management stinks.
I would go along with you in everything you said. I think the case of management stinking is true in many more businesses than just the Postal Service. I will agree with you and put your gold star on the wall. I couldn't have said it any better.
Well, I'm just making my hands sore, patting myself on the back.
Well, take your time, take a deep breath, try the other arm for a while so you don't get a cramp. Thank you. Appreciate it, Keith. God bless you, man. Thanks.
I hope you had a wonderful weekend. You know, your listeners out there, like myself, when you're not on the air, we just go about our business and, and just do the things we want. But you don't have that free time. This thinking telephone is always ringing, or your emails or whatever. Deb, you do the best with what you have, and we're proud of you.
Well, thank you very much, sir. And when you said stinking telephone, I got to tell you, there's other words that came to mind. God bless you, man. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget, Kent McClellan from Minidoka County Commissioner wants your vote. Yes, it's a mail-in ballot, and you have until June 2nd to get those ballots in. Don't forget, if you have any questions, call your county clerk, like over in Minidoka County. Call 436-9511. Kent, of course, 10 years as Minidoka County Commissioner, and he's been on the Region 4 Development Board for 8 years, and the Minnecasia Veterans Board as an advisor and liaison with the county. So please, ladies and gentlemen, remember Kent McClellan for Minidoka County Commissioner, paid for by John A. Burt Stevenson. Also, a quick reminder about Doug Martin, our old buddy that was on the air just a little bit ago. I should have asked him to do his own commercial, but he's got a wonderful, wonderful business for sale, and it's his business, and it's a turnkey operation to the point where all you have to do, literally, is just get the information from him, sit down, visit with him, and he will also help train the buyer the business. You cannot beat that. It's a rebuilding of starters and repair and alternators. You check it out today, Doug's Alternator and Starter Repair, and a great guy to help you at 635 21st Street in Hebron. It is for sale. Like I said, it's a turnkey business operation ready now. Give him a call, 878-4991. 878-4991, Doug's Alternator and Starter Repair. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I got to clean up a couple of things here this morning. Number one, finally, I have never in my life, and I'm an old geezer, like Gabby Hayes, I'm an old guy, let my hair go without a haircut for over 5.5 months. I mean, it was to the point none of my hats fit. I had to take a hat stretcher and keep stretching them out a little bit more because of the swelling of my head because of the hair. And finally, Friday morning, I ended up getting a haircut. J.C. Jabauer, if you're listening, thank you. She called and she said, I've got an opening, and I said, I'll take it. I went down, I got my hair cut, and it was like a ton of cement was taken off the top of my head, and my hats all fit. Oh, life is good. So I finally got my hair cut. Other things that I want to mention and clear up quickly, our best in our thoughts and prayers worked for George Mass and Senator Kelly Anthon. They are on the mend, doing a lot better, and they want to thank you for all the kind thoughts and consideration. Thank you very much. And last but not least, there is one of our dearest friends from Lunch Bunch celebrating a birthday today, and I know he's on the radio listening right now, and that, of course, is our dear friend Jimmy Flowers. Jimmy, God bless you, man, and many, 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 many more, my friend. You are the cream of the crop, and we appreciate you. Happy birthday to Jimmy Flowers. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, last week on Friday morning, Before we got tangled up in running here and there and everywhere, I happened to be watching the newscast, and one of the guests on the newscast I was watching was Trace Atkins. Trace Atkins, in my opinion, is one of the top country music singers. I love his voice. I love the songwriting ability. And I am not at all ashamed to say this, but he came out with a brand new song for this past weekend in the commemoration of Memorial Day, and it was called Arlington. If you have not heard the words, the lyrics of that song, and heard the tune, it is all about our soldiers and their final resting place. And again, I am not ashamed. I cried. It is absolutely, I think it's an American classic. Brand new song called Arlington. And a tribute to our soldiers. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning, Zeb. Yeah, I agree with you there on that. I was just trying to get a handle on Mr. Keese on the mail. Well, we need to read the history of the Pony Express. They carried the mail. Then it went to the railroads. Then it went to the airlines. Then it went to the steamships. And it went to the troop ships. The U.S. mail is kind of a part of America. Is it a necessary evil? Yeah, sure, fine, great. But I took a letter in to have it mailed by the UPS or FedEx or whatever. You know, it was like $11. Well, okay. The post office is, what, 53 cents?
Mm-hmm.
But the United States Post Office would mail the letter to Guam. UPS doesn't quite make it there.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's a lot of institutions that are ill-managed, ill-run, higher up. It's all done out of Washington, D.C. anyway. It's not at the local level. And last point is, if we don't need the post office and its buildings and its locations in every town and hamlet that we have, then why would we need the EPA, or why would we need the BLM, or why would we need, some towns haven't caught on fire in the last 200 years. Let's just do away with the fire department.
Yeah, let me ask you a question.
The show.
Let me ask you a question there, sir. I don't want to run over you, but I got to look at the clock, and I want to make sure I have time to get you to answer everything. You're very knowledgeable about what you said, and I respect what you said, and I agree with what you said. But the caveat that we all know is true is that there's been a lot of people crying wolf against the United States Postal Office and authorities, saying mismanagement, they need more money, et cetera, et cetera. That's not going to go away. But how do we take care of the problem? Who's going to sit down and with a diligent committee of people that know, how is it going to be solved? I don't want to see the post office closed down. I don't want to see any cutbacks. I don't want to see where I live in a rural area where rural people are going to suffer and can't go get their mail maybe more than once a week or whatever at a certain predestined location. What are the answers? Help me a little bit.
Well, simply, like all other services, you win by competition. So instead of, if the competition is price, I would love to see the UPS and FedEx and so on compete against the United States. So United States of America Post Office Service needs to lower their prices cut regulations. I'm a true Trumper, so slash prices, cut it in half, and your business will pick up. Take care of the deficits by generating more revenue at a lower price.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like you've got your ducks in. It sounds like you've got your ducks in a row on this thing, and I agree that there's got to be some stimulation of idea and thought. I've heard rumors about these various post offices that are going to keep closing, shut down, postmasters and all the delivery people out of work, and all of this. And like you said very succinctly, and boy, do I agree with you. We go and pay $11, $12, $15, $19 to deliver something or have it delivered, and yet that same letter that we can send to Timbuktu for 53 cents, we really got a bargain.
That's what I think.
God bless you for your call. I mean that. Thank you.
And Jim, thanks for
all right, sir.
Doing what you're doing.
Thank you, sir. You know, he's spot on. You know, we can gripe and complain and, oh, my goodness sake, stamps. I do it. I'm guilty. Oh, stamps went up another 2 cents. Oh, my goodness, Chicken Little, the sky is falling. But when you think about it, it's pretty darned economical to stay in communication with anyone, anywhere. And when I hear rumbles and rumors about, well, this post office is going to close or that one or whatever, and I live in a rural area, many of you do too. I don't want to have to think about not seeing my postman come up to my mailbox and put the mail inside, wave, yell, how you doing? Or even if I'm up there, visit for just a quick moment. I don't want to lose that personality. But something has got to be done. And it seems like nobody has really sat down and put the pencil to the paper and tried to figure it out. That's not my fault. It's not your fault. It's the powers that be. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. When I tell you about this next sponsor, I am absolutely elated, and I mean that they are back serving you, yes, of course, with social distancing inside, but with the greatest of food for you and your family, anytime, all the time, at Denny's Restaurant. America's Diner, 611 North Overland in Burley. They are open and serving you. They've got breakfast, lunch, dinner, and all the desserts. And I'm telling you, folks, delicious people, delicious food, and great people. Let's make sure we get it right. And always there to serve you. I can't urge you enough to stop in and see them. The hours they've got now are 7 to 9, and that, of course, Sunday through Thursday, and then 7 to 10 on Fridays and Saturdays. Who am I talking about one more time? Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner. You stop in and see them today. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. One of the things that really bothers me about and I don't know if it's naive or if it's they're just polling and asking Democrats and people on the left, but have you really sat down, and you better do this, you better educate yourself before November. You can't depend on the CNN. You can't depend on the MSNBCs or the CBSs or the ABCs. No, and double no. Because you're not going to get the information that really tells the whole picture. You've got to do the studying yourself. Joe Biden, and he has made this comment many, many, many times, his energy policy, if you want to call it that, it's a policy of complete incompetency, would ban fracking, it would ban offshore drilling, and it would ban the Keystone Pipeline. Now, literally, that would put us and our energy that is absolutely put us in number one spot in the world. It would put us back in kindergarten and almost to the point where it would be like in the 70s again, gas lines, people trying to figure out how to get their produce from the field to the grocery store to the plate. I mean, we're going to see all kinds of problems. And foreign powers will control our energy system. That's just one of the many points that I'm going to be talking to Dan Kish at 9:06 about this. But I just don't understand why we want to be regressive. And when you think about Biden coming out from the basement and saying, well, he's going to appoint, are you ready for this? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as one of his top energy czars. You better hold on to your resistol there, cowboy, because the sky's the limit as to what's going to happen price-wise. And the bottom's the limit on what it's going to do to us as far as how far we're going to go in a depressionistic attitude in this society. And how? Donald Trump took over, and our economy took off like a moonshot. Woo! Stock market at all-time highs, everything looking good. And then all of a sudden, strangely, even through all the Mueller reports and the impeachment and everything else, hold on, caller, strangely, when that didn't work, here came the coronavirus. And the economy stopped. Just what the Democrats wanted. Just what the Democrats had ordered. Sure is interesting, isn't it? Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zed. This Cortez gal is nothing more than a mouthpiece to the Communist Party in this country. And where the heck does she get the ability to get up there and become a part of the Congress and the decision-making operation in this country? Excuse me.
Well, it's hard for me at my age, and you're a little bit older than I am, but when you think about a bartender that had no experience, really not that much education, and propels herself in just a matter of a few years to be possibly the energy czar of the United States of America, when all she did in years previous was make a screwdriver or a martini? Are you kidding me?
You know, the problem we're going to be facing here in the future, Donald Trump, this is going to be his last 4 years. And God help us if a Democrat gets in, because we're going to see nothing more coming across that border. Poverty, disease, slums, crimes, overpopulation, higher taxes to support this bunch that's coming into our country, like Cortez.
You know, in a conversation that we had this weekend, my wife and I both were saying the same thing, basically. We feel we're very fortunate to be the age we are. Because, boy, the younger generation, they're going to be stuck with a mess of liberal, absolute sleaze that I hope does not take this country over, but right now it doesn't look very good.
Well, Mary and I think the exact same way you people do. The only problem these people, this younger generation, is going to learn in the future is when they lose all their freedoms. They're going to be told what time to get up in the morning, what to get to work, what they're going to have to eat. No guns, no nothing. They're going to lose every freedom they've got, and they don't understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. Tony, I so much agree with you and Mary, and I certainly am so glad for your friendship. Thank you, my dear friend. God bless you both. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Zed.
You bet, Tony. Thank you. Nice man right there. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, I touched on this a little bit ago, and I saw it on television 10 times at least, with Biden on that talk show with that black radio talk show host, and, you know, trying to jive talk with him. I mean, it was really kind of condescending, the whole thing was. And then Biden come in imitating the slang and the brogue of the inner city. Hey, man, you ain't black unless you vote for me. And I looked at Deanne and I said, wow. If a Republican, think of any Republican, think of whether it would be Mike Crapo, or think about Jim Risch, or think about our governor, or think about anybody else, Donald Trump, saying something that was so outlandishly racist, you ain't black if you don't vote for me. And Biden gets away with it. I mean, the left is so tone deaf, they can't hear themselves. And they can't understand how stupid they really sound. I'm not saying that Donald Trump has not put his foot in his mouth. No, I'm not saying that at all. As a matter of fact, he's probably got where it says cat's paw on the heel, it's embedded in his tongue. But, I mean, to be racially insensitive to the point where you ain't black if you don't vote for me, that's ridiculous in this day and age. And I am so glad that Senator Tim Scott and others who are black have stood up and said this is absolutely ridiculous and really put Joe Biden down. I still maintain, and I'll stand behind this, I said it last week, Joe Biden, by the end of this next month, will not be the nominee from the Democratic Party. Oh, and by the way, very interesting. I was going to share this with you because it's going to occur tomorrow. Last week, I said on the program that I was absolutely disenchanted with our politicians for not calling and trying to make appointments on this radio program, and I would no longer be a dog chasing a parked car trying to get them on the program. I won't do it. I will not do it. And I mentioned names. I said that I'm not going to chase after Mike Crapo, Jim Risch. I'm certainly not going to chase after Mike Simpson. And I also mentioned the governor. Well, as luck would have it, gee whiz, after the program was over last Thursday, after we had discussed this, the phone rang immediately after my show. And it was the governor's office, and they were making time to come on my program tomorrow and then again in days hence, which I absolutely respect. I didn't have a lot of time for tomorrow because I am booked solid for the next 2 weeks. But I did kind of scrape around and scrounge around and come up with about 15 minutes tomorrow where I can put him on the air, and we're going to talk about the coronavirus, the essential and non-essentials. We're going to do it in a manner where it's going to be, and I'm going to tell him this, it's going to be like two old cowboys leaning on the hood of a pickup or sitting in the saddle leaning on the saddle horn, and it's not going to be me taking my hat off and just going, oh, Mr. Governor. No, it's going to be like two old boys just talking. I'm not going to take any phone calls because it's going to be a short 15-minute segment. I want to get everything in. But then on the 9th of June, he's going to be back in a few days hence, and we're going to have a longer segment time. But I want to say that whether I agree with him or disagree with him or not, I respectfully give him a salute and his office for calling me after the program last week and arranging time to come on the air without me having to chase after them. That I absolutely salute him for, and you should too. But there's so many others that should start doing the same thing and follow through. Time for the weather. And the weather brought to you by our friends at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Wow, they are such nice people over there, Dr. Pickup and the staff, and they're located right behind the Minidoka Hospital across from the emergency room, and the number to call to make an appointment for your hearing screening, 312-0957. I'm going to say that again, 312-0957. Do not forget to call them because they are the best at providing expert diagnostic testing and with the best technology to help your hearing. Absolutely, you get a hold of them today, 312-0957. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Mild conditions for today, but as we make our way through the week, it is going to be heating up. Here's a look at your weather forecast. We are expecting partly sunny skies today with a high near 77, a slight breeze out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. Tonight, partly cloudy skies with a low of about 54. Tomorrow, mostly sunny skies warming up to 80. Overnight low of 52. By Thursday, sunny 86. Hold on to your hats for Friday. It is definitely warming up. Sunny skies, high of about 93. We are expecting 88 for Sunday, and as we start off the next work week on Monday, mostly sunny skies and 86. And that's what's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Rain.
Gina, thank you very much. And it sounds like it's going to warm up. Sweat City, look out. I tell you, it's going to be great. Don't forget our friends at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And they just absolutely take care of your hearing health. The lovely Dr. Christine Pickup and all of her staff, they are there all the time to serve your hearing health. So please call the number, make an appointment, 312-0957. Calls are welcome and appreciated on this Monday. I did it. I was trying hard not to on this Tuesday morning. I knew I was going to mess that up. May 26th. Well, I got a couple of days left in May. Holy moly. I mean, this summer, spring, everything going so fast. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Remember when President Obama walked up to the podium in a golf shirt and was talking about our soldiers returning home in coffins, and he took a lot of flack, deservedly so, that he was in a big hurry to get out of that news conference and scoot out the back door, which he did, and go to the golf course. Yes. He had a round of golf scheduled. It was almost like, well, I've got to run. I haven't got time for this. I'm going to go play golf. There was nothing from the left. Nobody criticized him from the left. They said, well, he works so hard that he needs to get away from the absolute stress of the job, the Oval Office, and get out and play golf. Well, gee. It's not that way now. With all this going on with the pandemic and Washington and President Trump and his wife going to Arlington yesterday and then Fort McHenry and every day with news conferences and updates on the coronavirus and everything, he went out and played a round of golf. And the left is going bananas. How could he play golf with nearly 100,000 lives lost? How could he go out and play golf with 30 million people plus unemployed? The boot's on the other foot. And the left doesn't seem to remember Obama. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. This is Chuck Driscoll, the Veteran Service Officer.
My friend, how are you?
I'm doing well. I just wanted to remind the veterans that our office is open for them to come by and discuss their benefits. And this week we're serving refreshments as well.
Give us a little time frame, when and where, and give us all that information.
It's at 625 Fremont in Rupert. We're open from 11 to 5, today, tomorrow, and Thursday.
Okay. Chuck, did you happen to, and I haven't had a chance to visit with you on this at all, I mean, this is kind of just off the cuff, but did you happen or have you heard that new song that's out by Trace Atkins called Arlington? Did you hear that?
No, I have not.
Can you please take the time and the effort today to try to listen to the lyrics and that song, and I would love to have you back on the air and talk about it. It got to me emotionally. It was one of the best songs that I've ever heard about our soldiers and their final resting place at Arlington, and I just wondered if you had heard it, and if you do, please call me back and we'll discuss it on the air.
I will do, sir.
And God bless you for calling. You know that you're welcome here anytime with any information. Thanks, Chuck. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
All right, sir. Thank you much. There's a man that's really dedicated to serving our veterans, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. John Kennedy of Louisiana, to Senator John Kennedy, he would say that this woman and others of her ilk are stuck on stupid. I'm going to talk to you about that in just a minute. Barry Equipment and Rental, Sales, Service, and Parts. Don't forget offices in Burley at 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin with Eli and the crew. Hello, Eli. And the Nampa location for all the equipment for the lifting, the digging, the pushing, the carrying, the leveling, the grading. Oh, they got it all. They've got all the bobcats, and they've got all the trenchers and the scissor lifts, and, of course, all the Doosan wheel loaders and excavators. Great financing programs, super lease programs. What are you waiting for? Get over there today. Barry Equipment and Rental. Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa, serving you. You talk about stuck on stupid, and we hear stories like this every single spring and summer over at Yellowstone National Park. Did you read that little bitty story in the paper the other day about a woman said to park rangers that she was injured when she was knocked to the ground after getting too close to a buffalo near the Old Faithful Geyser? Now, for those of us that understand that these are wild animals, these are not your backyard pets. These are not your, here, Homer, have a carrot. Here, boy. They're not those kind of animals. And I just can never understand. Every year we hear and read about these people that are warned every time they go to Yellowstone, stay away from the animals. Do not get out and try to pet them. But they seem to supersede knowledge and supersede common sense, and they get out of their vehicles, and then they get run over by a buffalo or whatever, and then they cry and complain about the injuries. And visitors to Yellowstone Park are required to stay at least 25 yards away from large animals. It's common sense. Hey, there's a buffalo over there. I think I'll go up and pet him on the nose. Ay, ay, ay. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
I think I've told you about this before, but I worked for a summer at Yellowstone, and one of the first things that the guys that run it, when they set us down to talk to what we do when we're working there, and when the people who are coming to the Yellowstone, we've got to educate them. And boy, did we ever. And the summer that I was there at Yellowstone, there was some, I don't know where he was from, he was some idiot, and he loved those buffaloes. And he went and got his little boy and set the little boy down in front of the buffalo so that the buffalo could be petted. And he turned around to leave, and when he turned around to look at his little boy, that buffalo had his horns right in that child's breast, and he was not letting go of that baby.
Oh, my
And I think the baby died.
Oh, my Lord. You see, it's stories of that kind of a incompetent idiot that doesn't realize common sense. They evidently were not vaccinated with that common sense shot. And it just sickens me to think that you could be that dumb. I mean, sure, somebody's going to say, oh, well, they were from the big city, they didn't know. But you took all the precautions out in the wild to tell them that these are wild animals.
Well, and I can't believe that they weren't smart enough to read the cautions.
Yeah.
And no, I think that was horrible. He lost his child, the guy did, and I think he went to jail.
Well, he should have. He should have. It was absolute child abuse and wanton child abuse. And I get really upset when I hear somebody stupid like that, or this woman, that potentially could spoil the scenery and the panoramic view of the wild animals because of their idiocy and incompetency. Chris, I wished I had more time, but I'm out of time. I got to run to the news. God bless you for your call. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I wished I had more time to talk to her because it's subject to, stay away from the animals. Gee whiz, they're wild animals. Buffalo? Come on, use some common sense. Got to run to the news. I'll be back in 7. Oh, here we go. Hour number 2. Zeb at the Ranch on a Tuesday. I know I messed up once last hour, and I said Monday. Sorry. It's Tuesday, May 26th, and welcome back. Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with safe, clean environment and the best in tires. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And, of course, don't forget Greystone Crossing Senior Living at 1221 21st Street in Hayburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. And right now, Wheels has this good word for Western Waste.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're all at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this free land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
It really is true. Their slogan is always at your disposal, and I can't tell you how important that is because they are there every week on the route service getting your garbage, getting rid of your garbage, and they provide the dumpsters in various sizes. You need one to clean out the basement or the garage or whatever, fill it up, they come get it. These are really wonderful people, and it's so easy to get involved. All you have to do is call them at 734-6969. And it's true, always at your disposal, Western Waste Services. You get a hold of them today. Want to also give you a great big shout-out about our friend Joel Heward, family and staff over at Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. You know, it goes without saying that when there's the passing of a loved one, the whole world just absolutely comes to a screeching stop, and you don't know what to do, you don't know what needs to be done. Just stop, please, and remember them. Hanson Mortuary, Joel Heward and his staff, serving you and your family with the best possible support and comfort, and always upholding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Number to call, 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, and Joel Heward also serving you and your family at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. One other quick note, I want to get this in real quick before we go to our guest, and that's, of course, our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. And I learned a lot from that hand therapist that we had on the air last week. Holy smokes, there's so much to physical therapy and so many areas of expertise, and they share all that information with you at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Nick Greenwell and his entire staff serving you to help you with the aching and the painin, and of course the recuperation from injuries or surgery. Please call the number. Don't put it off. You give them a call, they'll help you. 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Right now, one of my favorite segments on the program, and that's, of course, with American Energy Alliance, and this is a dear friend from back in Virginia. Good morning, Dan Kish. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm fine. How are you, sir?
Very well, thank you, and I hope you had a great Memorial Day weekend.
I did, and I hope the same of you, Zeb. It's a fitting time to spend some time remembering our veterans and those who've given the ultimate sacrifice.
Absolutely. Dan, one of the things that occurred over the last couple of days, as you're well aware, Joe Biden decided to open the basement door and come out of the basement, and he claims that he's going to be more accessible to the public, more accessible to the press and the media, but he also is starting to tout his energy program if he's elected as president. Now, that being said, if anybody with common sense that God gave a bicycle spoke, you should be able to understand that when he says no more fracking, no more offshore drilling, no to the Keystone Pipeline, we would literally be going in a regressive mode, in my opinion, back into the 1970s. Am I right, or do you think I'm wrong?
Oh, yeah, Zeb. Listen, the fracking is what's made the United States the number one producer of oil and gas in the world. And it's for the first time since the early 1970s we've become energy independent. Right now that industry is hurting, of course, because of all the disruption and nobody driving and no planes flying or anything like that. But they're making enough diesel to keep the trucks going so that we can have food delivered throughout the country. And the rest. And the idea of shutting that down would be to basically turn our energy future over to the Middle East, to Russia, to people that don't care about us. And their answer is, well, we won't need their oil or gas. We'll just use solar panels and windmills, and they all come from China. So who are we going to help here? Are we going to help Americans who need to work and who God gave the energy resources right under our own feet? Or are we going to prop up the Russians and the Chinese and the rest? And that's really what Joe Biden's saying. I like Chinese energy instead of American energy.
Let's take this from the get-go, Dan, and you and I have discussed this in the past, but I want to be very clear on this issue one more time. I, of course, live in a very, very big and prominent agricultural area, and I haven't seen too many John Deeres going down the field being propelled by a giant wind turbine or propeller, and I doubt seriously if they're in the works in the near future. Our agricultural production from the field to the plate, don't these people realize solar and wind are never going to take over the productivity that we need to feed the United States, let alone the world?
Zeb, to be honest with you, these people all reside in big cities like Manhattan and D.C. and L.A., and they have no idea how their food gets to their grocery store. If it isn't there, they'll be the first to complain. But when it comes to how it's made, and they think farming is just a bunch of hicks out there running around in the fields praying for rain. They have no idea about the horsepower it takes, about the pumping capacity that it takes to pump water, about where fertilizer comes from. It comes from natural gas and oil. That's where it comes from. And these people are living high off the hog without understanding that basically it's American agriculture powered by diesel and gasoline and affordable forms of energy that make it all possible.
Dan, where have we dropped the ball? I'll put the blame on me. I know you'll take some of the blame, but what about everybody else? Where did we drop the ball in not educating, first of all, our kids, and secondarily, their parents and everybody else about what we need to have as far as a good energy program to literally grow our food, produce our food, take care of ourselves, and quite frankly, have a growing economy? Where did we go wrong?
Well, I'll tell you, Zeb, I mean, I'm going to fault the media a lot on this because they just so often buy into, I deal with these people all the time. They don't know anything about energy. They don't know anything about thermodynamics. They certainly don't know anything about agriculture. They live in big cities. They think that when they turn the water on, it somehow magically just appears from the water god or something. They think that when they go to the grocery store, the food just sort of, I guess they're making it in the back or something of the grocery store, and it pops up there. That's how they look at life. And when you have all these people living in these big cities, their schools don't teach it because their teachers all come from the same place, and they don't know anything about it. And so really what it is, it's a symptom of a rich society that is largely urban-based, where all the talking heads and all the so-called smart people live, who don't know anything. They couldn't screw in a light bulb. They sure wouldn't know how to change a tire. They don't understand how to make stuff work and how things work. They look down their nose at farmers. At the same time, they want their produce to be fresh and everything else. And that's the problem. It's really that there's a lack of connection. You can blame it on the schools. You can blame it on the media. You can blame it on a very wealthy society that sort of looks down upon the people that actually keep the lights on, keep the food flowing, and keep this country going.
Dan, let me ask you this question. Whether it's the cattlemen's associations, whether it's the potato growers, whether it's the sugar beet growers, whether it's your beans or any part of agriculture, have we dropped the ball to where the associations haven't been more dominant and haven't been more forceful? Where have we dropped the ball so that they don't understand what we need energy for in agriculture? And can we all of a sudden back up on the monopoly board and start over?
Well, Seb, I think that the groups try their best. Honestly, I mean, I can tell you that living in Washington, D.C., there are commercials all the time for the Idaho potato industry with a guy, searching for potatoes and that sort of thing. And that part of it goes forward. But the real connection is ultimately how people live their lives. And if people are used to going to taking a subway and going underground to get to work, to go into a big, tall building where they get in an elevator with everybody else, which, by the way, is going to be tougher and tougher with this COVID thing. And that's their view of life, and all they do is trade digital money and talk about things. Then basically you've got people who are disconnected from the earth. It's funny because they all claim to be environmentalists too. They love the earth, and yet they live in the most unnatural environments on earth in these big cities. And then they come out and tell people in the city how to live. Oh, gee, you got a pig farm and it stinks. Oh, you're using diesel, and I see that tractor's making a little smoke. That kind of thing. And so I just think it's a natural outgrowth of things. Can we flip it around? Well, I think some people are getting an education right now. If as many people in rural America were not going to work as are not going to work in L.A. and New York because of the COVID, those people would be starving. You can't, there's a lot of people who can work from home and use their computer and a phone line and things like that, but you sure as heck can't call it in when there needs to be some, the back 40 needs plowing, or the pump that's pumping your water needs fixing. Somebody has to be there to do that. And in New York, they wouldn't be allowed to do that. And it kind of shows you how important really those jobs are when it comes right down to it.
Yeah.
The people who are out there working right now are making sure that people are fed and their lights are on and the water's being pumped and cleaned and all the rest of the things that are necessary. And the people in the cities are sitting around watching Netflix and wondering when the next government check is going to come forward. So when push comes to shove, when the rubber hits the road, who's doing the work keeping the rest of America alive? It's the rural parts of America.
Yeah. But, I guess I don't mean to beleaguer this point, but I'm just really concerned that the disconnect of realization of what's really going on by the liberal left is amazing to me. I mean, to sit there like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Biden has kind of pointed at her and said that she will be a major part of his energy program, and she doesn't know Khmer from Sikkim, and she's advocated only green energy. Well, what about the farmers? What about the raising of the crops? What about the planting of the crops? Then the harvest, and then from the harvest getting to the grocery stores and finally to the plate. I mean, that's not going to work with solar or wind power, and there's a complete disconnect as to what needs to be done. I'm totally afraid of these people.
Well, Zeb, for good reason. Let me tell you a little story about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She lives in a luxury apartment in Washington, D.C., very close to the Capitol. I see the building all the time. And she lives on one of the floors where she doesn't know how a garbage disposal works. She's never seen one before in her life and is mystified by them as though they're something strange. And in the bottom of her building on the first floor is a Whole Foods market, which is owned by Jeff Bezos, who owns Amazon and the Washington Post. And, I don't go to Whole Foods, and I try to keep my wife out of there because they'll spend us into poverty because they want two prices for everything. But a lot of people like their products, and they're very fresh, and they're very good, and everything else. So her life, for her, hunting and gathering means taking the elevator down to the first floor where she gets off into the Whole Foods market and walks around and buys, fresh vegetables grown in California Central Valley, where the environmentalists are trying to shut off all the water. And so I don't know what you do about people like that. I think there needs to be, I'll tell you one thing, you just don't vote for these people. And anybody who thinks or says anything positive about them just goes to show. They want know-nothings running their government who just, all they do is talk.
I am absolutely astounded, and I mean that in all sincerity. You and I have known each other for a long time. That the polls that have come out over the last couple of days, up to 2 weeks, showing that Biden has maybe a 7-point lead, 8-point lead, some places 9-point lead over Donald Trump. And I'm sitting here going, holy cow, it was just 2.5 months ago. Our economy was flourishing. The stock market was going through the roof. We had super energy programs. everybody was looking at the pie in the sky and taking a piece of it, and in 2.5 months, now we would possibly think about putting a Democrat that's been living in a basement, can't put two constructive sentences together, and he's got an energy program of just total regression. What is the matter with the naivete of the American public?
Well, Deb, in defense of them, I think right now it's sort of early. I mean, obviously Joe's been in his basement. Nobody's paying attention. But let me tell you something. When you look at it, and believe me, there's plenty of people that don't like President Trump. They just don't like his style. He's a brash New Yorker and all the rest. In fact, I thought I wouldn't like him because I thought, well, anybody from New York is bound to not understand work in America and blue collar and agriculture and the like. But nobody's done a better job in terms of watching out for those interests despite all the slings and arrows that he's gotten. And he truly is a blue collar billionaire.
Yes.
He's not some fancy pants guy. He'd rather talk to the construction workers working on his buildings because he understands they know what they're talking about as opposed to some slick talker in Washington, D.C. And so I hold out hope. I think people are going to get a pretty clear choice here between somebody, as you say, can't put a sentence together, and President Trump, who puts together a pretty sometimes the sentences are, I cover my eyes. But by God, at least he's a fighter, and he's fighting for American energy, he's fighting for American agriculture, and I think he's fighting for America.
One final thought, Dan, and the connection's getting a little weak, but I want to ask you this. Have the energy companies themselves, have they really utilized all the public relations and advertising power that they have and where they could help this situation? They seem to me sometimes to be sitting back in the corner waiting for somebody else to help them. Am I right or wrong?
I think you're right, Zeb. I mean, I've never been happy with the way they approach things. I think that they sometimes they're looking at their shoes and twiddling their thumbs when they ought to be speaking out and saying, hey, we're the guys this country running. And you need us, and we need you, and let's work together to make this country stronger. And I think sometimes they play too much of an international role, and they listen to European governments who, are third-rate countries at this point. And they ought to be talking to Americans and acting like Americans instead of acting as though they're ashamed of what they do.
Absolutely.
Nobody needs to be ashamed for making sure that this country runs and there's food on the table and all the rest. In fact, they ought to be proud of it, and we ought to be holding them up.
I've got time for one quick question, and caller, it's got to be quick and precise. Go ahead, please. You're on the air for Dan Kish. Quickly.
Well, because of what these governors have done in the COVID, you'd think that there's a whole bunch of people that were buying toilet paper or whatever, that they were more aware and they were going to be proactive and informed, woke. But will it help us, or are they just still lost? I'll hang up.
Dan, respond quickly to the caller, if you would.
Yeah, Zeb, I think there's a lot of them still lost. I mean, listen, you could lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. I think you probably used that one before. But, hey, this is America. We always prevail. I know sometimes it looks darkest before the dawn and all that stuff. But ultimately, I think Americans, real Americans out there, they aren't the noisy ones. They aren't the ones protesting. They're just the ones waving the flag, trying to enjoy their families and their God, worshiping their God. And those are the Americans that bring us through time and time again. They've always brought us through, Zeb.
Absolutely. Dan, God bless you, man. It's always an invigorating conversation to have you on the program. Dan Kish, American Energy Alliance, and we'll look forward to next Tuesday. God bless you, man. Have a great week.
Thanks, Zeb. God bless you and your audience.
Thank you very much. That is a very, very nice man, and always enjoy having him on my program. And we're going to have our next guest coming up in just a few moments. Want to remind you, too, Denny's restaurant is back open. Thank goodness, thank goodness. Delicious food, great people, and here's the hours, and you can go in and enjoy your great dining with social distancing inside the restaurant. Don't forget, hours are 7 to 9, Sunday through Thursday, and then, of course, 7 to 10 on Fridays and Saturdays. America's Diner. Absolutely, with the best of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and desserts, anytime, all the time. Great. My favorite, my wife's favorite, the strawberry crepes. You got to get in and check this out at Denny's restaurant. It is so great to be talking about Thomas and Michelle and the whole crew at America's Diner. Denny's restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. Thank you very much. Also, I want to give a great big shout out to Let's Ride. Oh, get your motor running. Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. And they've got some new hours for you, too. Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. Saturdays, 9 to 2. And believe me, they've got... Have you been over there and looked at that showroom? I'm telling you, take a tape measure with you and try to measure how in the world they got so many outfits, all the side-by-sides and all the four-wheelers and everything else. How they got everything in that showroom and on the showroom floor. Holy moly. They're geniuses. You better stop over and check it out today. Rebates on the side-by-sides and the four-wheelers, and they've got all the accessories. And what a service department to keep you running. Absolutely. Let's Ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World, and it's really true over at Let's Ride. This is where the fun is sold. Absolutely. Right now, let's go to the phone line, and I've been looking forward to having this gentleman on our program, and he is an attorney with the Pacific Legal Foundation, a group that's been on our program many, many, many times. Good morning, Oliver Dunford. How are you?
He's there, sir. I apologize.
All right. Mr. Dunford, how are you this morning?
I'm great. How are you?
Not too bad. I believe this is the first time that I've had you on my program. Is it not?
I think so, but yeah, I think it is.
Well, we'll look forward to hopefully having a good show, and we'll get you back. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about our rights and freedoms that seem to be eroding every single day due to this coronavirus, and governors and other people that want to see if they can't supersede our Constitution. What about a ban on car parades? I was reading about this. Tell me more.
Sure. Well, as a general matter, the government can, put in place some restrictions to protect the health and safety, but they have to do so reasonably, and they have to do so fairly. And we found in Santa Clara, California, the county put a ban on car parades. In other words, people would stay in their car and drive down the street. And the county decided that was a threat to the public health somehow. And this is consistent with what we've seen, for example, in Kentucky, where the governor tried to stop a church service. They called it a drive-through church service, even though everybody stayed in their cars. So this is just an example where the government has taken its powers and gone way too far.
Let me ask you this, Oliver. And Wheels, we got a little feedback on this call. Please help me on that, regulate that. We the American people, have seemed to jumped into a hot frying pan here with this coronavirus, where the powers that be are saying, thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do this. You may be a jewelry store, but you're non-essential. We're going to close you down. We're going to let Walmart and others of that ilk stay open, which makes no common sense to me whatsoever. We're going to stop you from going to a beach, and if you go to the beach, you can only be on the wet sand only. Well, I'd like some great scientific mind, Oliver, to tell me how you get from the dry sand to the wet sand. They're coming up with these ludicrous things that they're trying to dictate to us. This has got to stop.
Yeah, no question. Some states say you can be in the water. Some states say you can only be on the beach. And as you say, how do you get to the water from the beach? Or how do you get into the water except for going over the beach?
the states seem to be making things up as they go along. They're frankly not sure. But if they're not sure, then the response shouldn't be treat people unfairly and come up with arbitrary rules. The response should be to enforce what is fair to everybody, to recommend that you stay apart, to do common sense things like wash your hands, if you feel sick, stay home from work, things like that. But the total lockdown, especially as it's continued now, remember the original reasons were to flatten the curve and prevent the hospitals from being overwhelmed, and now we're hearing other things. The Governor Whitmer in Michigan is extending the lockdown orders without much reason. And so what we see is these governments have, perhaps to avoid accusations that they didn't know what they were doing, but they seem to be slow and arbitrary in reopening the state.
Oliver, I'm just an old cowboy from the state of Idaho, so you're going to have to bear with me, but I really need you to inform me, like in the case of Michigan's Governor Whitmer, a woman that I absolutely detest with her narrow-minded thinking, what in the world would be a health hazard? To go out on a motorboat on Lake Michigan all by yourself or with someone else wearing life preservers, fishing, breathing in the fresh air, and, of course, getting the great sunlight that helps everybody. How can that implement a health hazard, and why should they be limited to only going out in a kayak? Help me on that.
Yeah, there's no good reason. And as we've learned more about this virus, it seems like the orders to stay locked in are more harmful than letting people go out and breathe fresh air, as you say, and get some sunlight. And so maybe at the beginning you could give them a little bit of deference to say, well, we don't know what's going on. Let's just lock everything down. But even if you agree with that, to continue those kinds of orders, to say that you can't be out on a boat by yourself, or can't be on a motorboat with all these things. They're just arbitrary, and they seem to have no basis in science or any other reasonable relationship to the health and safety of the citizens.
Well, Oliver, I guess I'm going to paint you into a corner here, and I don't mean to, but you're a sharp man. You can take care of it. Is this really, really for health concerns, or in many, many cases, like Newsom in California, Whitmer in Michigan, Cuomo in New York, and others, is it for health reasons, or is it for control?
Well, it's a great question. Robert Higgs wrote a now classic book called Crisis in Leviathan, in which he went through the history of the United States and showed that every time there was a huge crisis, the government used more power and kept the power for the most part after the crisis ended. And perhaps that's what we're seeing here. Even if we give these politicians the benefit of the doubt that they initially truly wanted to help people, at some point it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and the government just takes all this power and never gives it up. And there are examples. Pacific Legal Foundation is up on their website called their plan for reopening, and we pointed out all the silly regulations that should never have been in there in the first place. For example, in Kentucky, we have a lawsuit there right now where ambulance drivers are not allowed to work in Kentucky unless they get what's called a certificate of need. They have to apply to the state and give their would-be competitors notice that they intend to open a business in Kentucky. And then the state holds a hearing in which the competitors get to say, no, there's no need. We're good where we are. And so those kinds of laws have probably, almost certainly, made our response worse than it needed to be. And those kinds of laws continue today.
Wait a minute. I've got to go after this. I'm going to exacerbate that one a little bit. How in the world can any government, any state or local government within the confines of the United States of America limit in a capitalist country, a free society, how can they limit free enterprise? What are you telling me here?
Well, that's right. And obviously we think it's arbitrary and unfair and unconstitutional. But at least one federal circuit court, the 10th Circuit, has said that economic protectionism can be a legitimate state interest. And so the company that we're representing in that ambulance lawsuit is based in Ohio, and so they're trying to expand their business into Kentucky. And there is some case law that says that the states can protect their economic interests. Now, we think that's contrary to the Commerce Clause and to the Constitution as a general matter. That, as you say, we're a free market capitalist country, and the state should not be imposing those kinds of arbitrary restrictions. I'm
going to probably get into the deep grass here a little bit, Oliver, but I think these are questions that need to be asked. We have a lot of tighty-whities in this country that, oh my goodness, civil disobedience and people that would rear their ugly heads and shout back at a governor because they're losing their business, they're losing their livelihood, they're losing their life savings. They should shut up and stay at home and not worry about it. I mean, people have had enough of being governed and controlled. And my worry is that with civil disobedience, I think there is a time and a place, because we're seeing, like we did over 250 years ago with the formation of this country, that people are losing everything and they need their voices heard. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, some of the responses I've seen to the lockdowns is that, well, people were voluntarily closing themselves off and putting restrictions on themselves before the states ordered them to do so. And my response to that is, well, good. That shows that people know how to take care of themselves. We don't need a complete lockdown of everything. I mean, the government decides what's essential and what isn't, but that's an arbitrary decision in many cases. How do we know what services are essential? How do we know exactly which materials and which businesses are needed to respond to these kinds of crises? And so the fear of reopening really seems silly when you consider that a lot of people will stay home. A lot of people will not go immediately back to work, either because they lived with perhaps elderly relatives or something like that. And so, yeah, the government again has just gone too far, especially the longer it goes on. Again, let's give them the benefit of the doubt at the beginning, but as this continues, people are, as you say, losing their livelihoods, and government are the reason they're concerned now is because they're losing tax revenue because people aren't working.
You know, Oliver, let me go back to this ban on parades, and I want to look at this problem a little bit more. I would assume that anyone that wants to have a parade, quote unquote, probably had to file for a parade permit, like they do for the 4th of July or Labor Day parades or whatever the case might be. How can the city of Santa Clara say, no, you can't have a parade? I just am at a loss on this. Who is the main power with these kind of Hitleristic powers that says no to these people?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. In terms of the drive-thru, I don't know about the permit. That's a great question. But unless there is a valid government interest at stake, it is improper. And so in this case, presumably they believe that they are doing this for the public safety. But again, if people are allowed to drive to work, if people are allowed to drive to their essential businesses, it's very difficult to see how people driving down the street together with other cars poses a greater risk than anything else.
Does it seem to you, and again I'm going back to a point we made a little bit ago, but it seems to me, and I'll ask you, that little by little, inch by inch, like the old Abbott and Costello comedy routine, foot by foot, etc., that our rights are being eroded and we're being more put in a cage, if you will, by what we can say, where we can say it, or if we can say it at all. And I'm really concerned that somebody has struck the match to burn the First Amendment.
Yeah, no question. And one of the we just filed an amicus brief. Actually, I found a court brief in the Supreme Court, and we made a point that the restrictions we're seeing have built up over time. If you had said 100 years ago, for example, that there'd be a law requiring a business to announce to its would-be competitors that it's coming and it needs their permission, people would have said that's crazy. But these little incremental restrictions crop up, and then people get used to them, and then the next crop comes up, and there's a ratchet effect on these regulations, including, as you say, the First Amendment. The parade is traditionally whether the government government has to allow a parade is traditionally reviewed under the First Amendment. And if there's a restriction, it has to be narrowly tailored to a compelling government interest. And I think it falls well short of that standard.
I'm looking ahead to the July 4th celebration of our Independence Day 2020. And I shudder to think that maybe somebody of negativity against our country, negativity against our flag, negativity against our gathering to say to God and everybody else we're proud of this nation, the United States of America, would file a complaint against maybe a 4th of July parade or maybe an Independence Day celebration, a rodeo, whatever the case might be, because the flag offends them and it hurts their feelings. Is that what we're coming to, that we have to pay attention to these minorities that absolutely hate America?
Well, I'd be surprised if a court would uphold that kind of restriction. I think what we might see are some, for example, New York City maybe would cancel its parade or put restrictions on it because of the high infection rate there. But as a general matter, I think we'll see a lot of 4th of July parades this year, and I think. Courts, judges are people too, and I think they can see that as this goes on, the governments just seem to be acting arbitrarily and extending these restrictions with very little basis.
Well, on behalf of you and the Pacific Legal Foundation, you're involved in this case in Santa Clara with the ban on the car parades, etc. What do you hope to achieve? I mean, you're looking forward to possibly going before the Santa Clara City Council and saying, we gotcha.
Yeah, no, and we have not filed a lawsuit yet in that case. We're thinking about it. We're hoping the county sees the light and restricts it. But what we want simply is that the government, when it imposes rules, that it does so based on actual reasons, and that it applies those rules fairly. Can't allow some people to open their business and not similar businesses to stay closed. We have a situation in Napa County right now where an art gallery has to stay closed, even though other stores, including in antique dealers and other retail stores, are allowed to stay open. And so again, if they're going to have rules, they have to be based in some rational relation to health and safety, and they have to be applied fairly.
Absolutely. Gosh, Oliver, I really enjoyed you coming back on the program, and I'll look forward to future broadcasts with you on behalf of the Pacific Legal Foundation, Attorney Oliver Dunford. And if people want more information about the PLF, where do they go? How do they check on it?
Yeah, please check us out at pacificlegal.org.
You're a good man. Thank you for coming on the program this morning.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, sir. God bless. Thank you very much. Can you imagine, folks, we were talking about, and this just infuriates me. I mean to tell you, Santa Clara, California, nixing parades, telling residents to find another way to celebrate. And I'll still go back to my analogy about what about the 4th of July? You get some crackpot kook that says, I don't like the red, white, and blue. I don't like that flag. It offends me. Don't have the parade. Can you imagine some of these crackpots going to city councils and the city councils going, gee, we had a resident say that they're offended by the flag. We better not do that. That's how weak-kneed and milquetoast and cowardly a lot of people are in this country. It's shameful what we've become. All right, let's go to the weather forecast brought to you by the professionals, and that's Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And they provide accounting services to the Mini-Cassia area, and they have done so for well over 50 years. I mean the best. Tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, bookkeeping services, retirement planning. The list goes on and on. They are really, really good at what they do in helping you, your family, and your businesses. With offices in Burley and Rupert, don't you forget Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Mild conditions for today, but as we make our way through the week, it is going to be heating up. Here's a look at your weather forecast. We are expecting partly sunny skies today with a high near 77, a slight breeze out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. Tonight, partly cloudy skies with a low of about 54. Tomorrow, mostly sunny skies, warming up to 80. Overnight low of 52. By Thursday, sunny 86. Hold on to your hats for Friday. It is definitely warming up. Sunny skies, high of about 93. We are expecting 88 for Sunday, and as we start off the next work week on Monday, mostly sunny skies and 86. And that's what's your weather forecast for Zebedee.
Thank you, Gina. Appreciate it. And brought to you and yours by Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. I can tell you firsthand testimonial, they are good. They are the professionals, serving you with the best of accounting services in Burley at 1710 Overland in Burley and 620 Fifth Street in Rupert. Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. You know, I don't think I'm really off base on this because we have had other stories on this program about, so-and-so complained about a certain circumstance, and then the powers that be, no, we better not have the event because one person complained. Are we at a point in this country, and I'm afraid that we may be, that people, very minuscule numbers, very small percentages of people are going to complain and destroy through their complaints everything that this country stands for? I will stand behind what I said to the attorney a few minutes ago. All it's going to take is for a crackpot, someone that doesn't love this country, someone that is offended by seeing the American flag down a parade route, leading a parade on Independence Day, and they'll get a couple of complaints and they'll run with their tail, they being the city council or whatever, will run with their tail between their legs and say, well, I guess we just can't have that anymore. Oh my goodness, we had 2 complaints, we've got to stop it. That's how cowardly our country has become. We don't stand up and kind of take our finger and thumb and kind of flick them away like a pesky bug. Oh, sure, they've got a right to speak out, but they don't have a right to disrupt what the majority wants in celebration and commemoration of this, the greatest country in the world ever. And if that offends somebody, and evidently it did one day on the program back in January. I remember this vividly when I said America's number one, and there's no country that comes even as close to the United States of America, and I honor her, and I think we will praise her on this program. And the guy said, wow, that's your attitude. We're not always number one. Well, maybe, sir, to that person, if he's still listening, I hope so, you're part of the problem as to why we're seeing a degeneration of this great country. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. This country means more to me than you can ever imagine. I mean, I was so fortunate to be born here in the United States of America. I was so fortunate to have the opportunities afforded to me to work and study and really propel myself. No other country in the world has what we have. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Morning, sir. Dinesh D'Souza put out a movie, a documentary about what the world would look like if it wasn't for America.
Mm-hmm.
Have you watched that?
Yep.
And I recommend everybody watching that. It is very factual, and it is very true.
You know, Doug, America, and again, Wheels, we got a little feedback here. America, as you well know, has had its acne. It's had its pimples. It's had its warts. And it still does. But you tell me, or anybody out there in Radio Land, tell me another country that's as good in the past, or as good presently, or will be as good treating the world as it has as the United States of America. There is no equal.
There is none. And just if America falls, where's the other country that's going to step up and save the world?
Bingo. There isn't any.
There isn't. If America falls, the world will fall. Because the world is in chaos, but everybody around the world respects America because they know what America can do. If they come against America, they know how America will fight. They want to take us down so we can have a one-world government.
Yes.
And heaven forbid if that ever happens. I mean, you think you have it tough now. You wait living in a one-world government where somebody like the WHO, the WHO, the World Health Organization, dictate what you can be cured for, what you can be treated for, and what you can't be treated for.
That's right. You know,
who can be treated and who can't.
To the politicians, to the so-called superstar athletes, to the absolutely small-minded actors in Hollywood that say, oh boy, China this, China that, we'd all be better off if we adopted more like China, I say to you, damn your stupidity. And I'm not going to pull back any words. Damn their stupidity for praising another country that absolutely is inhumane to the populaces of the world and their own people. And I absolutely can't understand how anybody can stand in this country, the United States of America, and say derogatory things and praise another country when their mouth is full and they're well clothed and living in a great society.
Exactly. These movie stars, did they create their wealth because they lived in a country like China?
No.
Or Russia?
No.
Or Saudi Arabia, or Pakistan. No, they got their wealth in a country that is a capitalist country, not a socialist country. So they've got all their wealth because we, the American people, have wealth, have, money to spend on things for entertainment. And that's all they are, is entertainment.
There you go. Doug, I'm all the time. I mean, I looked at the watch, and the watch looked back at me and said, oops, I got to run. Thank you.
Okay, God bless.
All right, buddy. Thank you very much. Hey, don't forget Cameron and Siemens Insurance, our dear, dear friends, serving you, of course, on Highway 24 in Rupert. Oh, my goodness, life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, very dedicated and responsive to your needs. As a matter of fact, I got to call Todd right after the program. They are devoted to serving you and me. Good people. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. The number to call, 436-4424. Say it again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Going to run to the news. I'll be back in about 7 minutes. And away we go. Hour number 3 on Tuesday, May 26th. I hope you had a great Memorial Day weekend and welcome back into the workplace. And by golly, we want to say a big thank you to our major sponsor on Zebit the Ranch, your Magic Valley. Yeah, there you go, Zeb. Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with very safe, clean environment and the best in tires and service at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. And, of course, Greystone Crossing Senior Living. Oh, my, what a beautiful place. Oh, my, what wonderful, delicious food. We talked to Kelly last week, Kelly Wiggins, and I told her the next time they have a peach pie or peach cobbler, better call me. I'm running down there. Absolutely. Seniors, listen, this is a beautiful place for you to live in. 12-bedroom home with food, all the delicious meals 3 times a day, and snacks and housekeeping and local transportation. You better call and find out more. Call the number 650-4979, 650-4979. Matt and Kelly Wiggins at Greystone Crossing Senior Living, 1221 21st Street in Hayburn. Seniors living the good life with friends. Want to also acknowledge, like we have for a long time on this program, our friends over to 7K Metals. And really, you can help build yourself a financial security and future and kind of create your own security bank through silver purchases that are sent right to your home with 7K Metals. How do you find out more? How do you get it started? Easy. Just get a hold of Lon Hardy at 312-8699 or Sharon Wilmot at 430-3259. Tell them I told you to call. They will help you at 7K Metals and Silver Purchases. You check it out today. Right now, let's see, we're going to go to the phone line, and it is Tuesday. I keep thinking it's Monday all the time. And here's our dear, dear friend, Dr. History. Good morning.
Good morning, Zeb. How you doing today?
I am peachy fine, wonderful, and hopefully we're going to be able to get in the same studio here soon.
Well, hopefully next week. We'll shoot for it.
Okay. What about anybody to thank, anybody to acknowledge, anybody that you want to recognize here today?
Yes, I got an email this past week from a guy named Jay, who I believe is down in Texas. And I want to thank Jay because he pointed out that when I did the podcast on John M. Browning, that there was a few things I didn't quite have right. And so I get the impression that Jay must be quite an expert on guns, and so I appreciate him emailing me, and I'm going to check out what he told me. And anyway, so just want to say thanks to Jay.
You know what? I respect you for saying that because sometimes somebody else, maybe a family member in the family tree or someone closer to the situation or circumstances of the story that you're talking about, maybe they've got some firsthand knowledge you don't have.
Exactly. And I've always claimed I'm not an expert. I just tell stories. And so I'm going to hopefully find out more about what Jay's been talking about to me and see if we can get some things straightened out.
All right. Well, what have we got cooking on the oven today?
Well, we're going to go back into your home territory.
Oh.
All right? And you're probably going to recognize some of these names. But long after the last of the really bad Plains Indians had suffered the final defeat at the hands of the white man, the otherwise peaceful Chippewa Indians in northern Minnesota staged their first and only armed outbreak. The Battle of Sugar Point, sometimes referred to as the Battle of Leech Lake, was the last authenticated conflict between Indians and white settlers on the North American continent. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with Leech Lake or Walker, the town of Walker, but it's up there in Minnesota.
It wasn't too far from where I went to college.
Okay, yeah. Well, anyway, out in the middle of Leech Lake, there's an island called Bear Island. It's 4 miles long and less than 2 miles wide, and it lies about 3 miles from the eastern shore of Leech Lake. And in 1898, it was occupied by several hundred Chippewa Indians, and they were just living pretty peacefully. They would gather berries and wild rice, and they actually had planted gardens and were living off the land there and just, living a pretty good life. But sometime in April of 1895, the leader of this group, and I'm only going to pronounce his name once, and then I'm going to refer to him as the chief.
Oh, okay. Chicken.
Okay? His name is Bugane Geshig. So, chief. From now on, I'm just going to say chief.
I'll be honest with you. I admire your attempt, but I think I would have just called him the chief from the get-go.
Well, I didn't want to leave his real name out. So, anyway, the chief was arrested for providing another Indian with some whiskey. And when their only witness disappeared, the chief was released, but was served a subpoena to appear before the same court as a witness the following June. Well, he ignored the summons and was arrested for contempt of court, but was rescued by some of his tribesmen. Warrants were issued for the arrest of the chief and the 12 others, but it was not until May of 1897, now we're 2 years later, that the Chippewa agent was able to get 9 of the 13 into court. They pleaded guilty and were sentenced to 30 days in jail. Now, no attempts were made to bring the chief in until 1898. Now we're 4 years down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the authorities decided to arrest him when he came into the agency to receive his annuity payment. Now again, however, the chief was rescued by his men. The U.S. Marshal at St. Paul immediately secured warrants for the arrest of 22 Indians and requested that a detail of soldiers be assigned to assist him. Now, the War Department authorized a detachment of 20 men sent from Fort Snelling under the command of a guy by the name of Lieutenant C.B. Humphreys. Now, rumors that the Chippewas were preparing to resist kind of prompted Humphreys to telegraph for reinforcements on October 3rd. Meanwhile, a council was held, but neither the agent nor Indian inspector could persuade the Indian delegates to turn the chief over to the authorities. They didn't want to let him go. Well, the following day, Brigadier General John Bacon arrived in Walker, 5 miles from the agency, with 80 men. A trip by the marshal and Indian inspector to the chief at his home on Sugar Point proved fruitless. He still wasn't going to do anything. He refused to surrender himself or his men. So at dawn on October 5th, 2 days later, 2 steamers, one of them towing a barge loaded with soldiers, made the 30-mile run up the lake from Walker to Sugar Point and to the chief's camp. But the camp was almost deserted, although some of the fugitives were captured there, and they were put in irons in one of the steamers. And after a reconnaissance of the area, General Bacon ordered the troops to fall out and prepare dinner. So they were hungry, I guess. Anyway, a shot from one of the soldiers' guns discharged accidentally when a recruit was stacking his rifle, set off kind of a return from Indian snipers hiding in the woods around the camp. One soldier was killed and several others wounded. The troops immediately formed a firing line, and a pretty hot exchange lasting over half an hour followed. Now, the sniping from the Indians continued, and they were excellent marksmen, and they did hit 2 more soldiers. Well, that evening, trenches were dug and sentries posted because they were anticipating that the chief would direct an attack the following morning. Well, but the Chippewas continued their sniping tactics of the day before, and they actually killed several more soldiers and wounding the Indian inspector and a marshal by the name of Sheehan. An Indian policeman with the troops was killed by a soldier who thought he was one of the chief's braves. So one of the guys got killed by his own friendly fire. Now, realizing how futile it was of trying to get the Chippewa out of defense, out of the woods, the general, Bacon, withdrew his detachment and he gave heed to rumors about a general uprising throughout the Chippewa nation, and he began making plans for a wholesale campaign. Mm-hmm. Lieutenant Colonel Harback marched 200 men from Fort Snelling to the agency, and 100 men under Lieutenant James Moore were assigned to guard the dams on the Leech Lake vicinity. Governor Clow of Minnesota ordered 2 National Guard batteries into active duty, and several companies of the Minnesota Infantry were sent to occupy various points along the Great Northern Railroad. So now we've got, 400 or 500 troopers out there to fight against the Chippewas. Well, the Chippewas, surrounded by troops, they had no intention of launching an all-out revolt, and only the chief and about 35 braves at Bear Island were involved in this uprising. So here you have, like, say, 400 or 500 troopers, and you only had, 40 Indians that were involved. Well, there's a guy by the name of W.A. Jones. He was Commissioner of U.S. Indian Affairs, and he arrived at the agency from Washington October 10th, accompanied by a guy by the name of Father Aloysius, and he was head of the mission at White Earth, Minnesota, and he was well liked by all the Chippewas. They thought he was a good guy. Well, anyway, they got to Bear Island, and as they were, that was kind of an important power, this Father Aloysius.
I think I understand the guy's name because I've heard of it before. It's Aloysius.
Okay. Well, it doesn't look like that with the spelling.
Oh, okay.
I'll take your word for that one.
I think it was Father Aloysius, and I remember hearing a story about him. Pardon my interruption, but I thought I'd get you off the hook.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So anyway, they sent Father Aloysius and a canoe loaded with sugar, flour, tobacco, and other goods to request that the Chippewas meet the commissioner in a council. Well, the gifts had their effect, and on October 12th, Jones met with the Chippewa delegates, and he insisted that the men named in the warrant surrender, but the Indians refused unless some promise of immunity was given. So they weren't just going to fall for anything, They wanted to make sure they were okay. Well, the Indians seemed desirous of ending the conflict, the rebellion, and provided they could gain assurances that certain long-standing grievances were corrected. So there were other things that were involved in this whole thing. But a number of the chiefs and braves published an address to the state and country stating they regretted the deaths already caused, but that the Chippewas' rise against insults and broken promises had been unavoidable. The whites, they said, would have done the same thing under similar conditions. So they promised not to engage in further hostilities, and they trusted the Great White Father and that he would be understand and that he would be lenient with them. By October 20th, most of the Indians cited in the warrant were in custody, although the chief was still at large. He hadn't turned himself in. The prisoners were taken to Duluth, and fines and jail sentences were given out. Now, Commissioner Jones felt the punishment was too severe, and he proposed a remission of the fines and jail sentences, reduced to only 2 months. So on January 3rd, 1899, President McKinley issued a full pardon to all the Indians that were involved in this. Now, the chief was never brought in and was a free man not only after his pardon, but all the time before, so he was pretty much off scot-free. Anyway, from a military standpoint, the Bear Island Chippewas had come out of this victorious. They did not lose a single man. They'd been able to withstand a superior group of soldiers, like I said, 400 or 500, and force them back to their base. 6 soldiers died, and 9 were wounded as a result of the Indians, who were excellent marksmen. And, of course, one of those that died was actually shot by his own men. So in a telegram to the War Department, October 8th, 1898, Governor Clow stated, quote, "I do not think General Bacon has won the victory he claims. The Indians claim to have won, and that is my opinion." And then he goes on, had other battles, the long series of American Indian Wars been handled as tactfully as that was, the history of the United States-Indian relations might have been drastically changed. So that's the story of the Battle of Bear Island, and anyway, that's, I know that's not a very long story, but that's, kind of thought that was up in your territory. You'd enjoy that.
Well, I got some questions for you right there, and I think some research that you and I could both do together. A lot of people don't realize, and Wheels, there's a little feedback here. A lot of people don't realize that some of the most dangerous and some of the most treacherous Indian wars against the whites and vice versa took place back in the Midwest. My hometown, where I was born and raised, Fort Atkinson, was named after General Atkinson, and they had a very, very heated battle right there in my hometown at the fort with Chief Blackhawk and the Blackhawk Indians that roamed all the way up and down the Rock River from southern Wisconsin all the way down into Illinois. There's a story for you to look out, because just in the last 25, 30 years, I think, they found through excavation some of the original posts of the fort where the city was built.
Well, and as you look at the kind of the general outlook on the whole thing, obviously the whites started on the East Coast and gradually started moving more and more west and more, and basically kind of driving the Indians farther and farther from their homelands, heading west. There is a story that I have told quite a while ago about a group of white Indians, and the theory is that these were Vikings that had made their way into the, clear into the, I think it was the Minnesota, Wisconsin area, somewhere in there, where there was a tribe of Indians that had quite a few white children, and they think they were actually from a Viking expedition that got that far into the country.
Yeah, well, see, that was the origination theory of how the NFL Minnesota Vikings came to be. I'm kidding.
Okay, you had me there for a second. Just for a second. Yeah, but, in here, again, I look at this, the Chippewa tribe. They seem to be a very peaceful tribe. They're living on that Sugar Point area and on the on the island, Bear Island. They're planting gardens. They were receiving some assistance from the government, but it looked to me like they were doing very well for themselves, and just really wanted to be left alone.
Well, the tribes up there in that country of Wisconsin and Michigan and Minnesota, they had everything. I mean, you had the four seasons, you had adequate and very abundant wildlife, you had water, I mean, you had it all. And then the white man came in and there was trouble in River City.
Yeah. Well, I'm just looking at a map of this Leech Lake and it looks like a beautiful lake.
Yes, yes.
And this Sugar Point just right there, kind of just north of Bear Island, and what a great place to live. I mean, on that island, it's just big enough, but just small enough that for the Chippewa tribe to live on. And again, they must have lived partially on that kind of promontory that sticks out called Sugar Point.
I wonder how many tribes back in those days were prominent in that area. I mean, you had the Iroquois, you had the Chippewas, you had the Menominees, you had the Blackhawks. Wow, there were a lot of tribes, big tribes, back in the Midwest.
I picked up a book here a while back that goes through hopefully every single tribe that was in America.
Wow.
And it gives about a half a page kind of history of hopefully pretty much every tribe that was in America when it was discovered.
I guess the number one question I've got for you, Dr. History, and I remember I asked you this one other time on the program, the discernment of establishing a tribe and what constituted a tribe and what they did that kept them separate from other tribes. That would be an interesting program right there.
Right. And in some of those tribes, if a person from one tribe married somebody from another tribe, then it was such that the man would become a member of her tribe, or the other way around. Mm-hmm. She would become a member of his tribe. So there was some mixing and intermarrying, but once they were married, then they became adopted by either his or her tribe, and they became officially a Chippewa or a Blackhawk or whatever you wanted to call them.
Was there a lot of fighting and bickering amongst the tribes, not only there but across the United States? I mean, was it over land? Was it over perhaps fishing and hunting rights? Did they have their own political warfare, if you will?
They did if they felt like another tribe was moving into their hunting grounds. So if for example, out here in the West, if, let's say, the Shoshones would go down somewhere south, like into the Utah area, annually to hunt buffalo or whatever, and if another tribe happened to be coming into what they considered their hunting grounds, then, yeah, there was conflict. There would be battles to defend your hunting grounds or even your winter, where you'd stay for the winter. Mm-hmm. So they were pretty proud of their territories, and they would defend them with battle. Yes.
Okay. Well, again, very interesting story, but I think sometimes we kind of, minimize what happened in the United States. A lot of the big Indian wars and battles actually were not fought out in the West. They were fought back in the Midwest.
Yes, that's true.
All right. You did it again, and I can't wait for you to get back in the studio, my friend.
Okay, and I want to say thanks again to Jay for pointing out some of the research I need to do on the John M. Browning guns. So thanks, Jay.
All right. Well, Dr. History, be safe, be well. God bless you, man, and we'll talk to you next week on Tuesday.
Okay. You have a good day, Zeb.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Always enjoy Dr. History. Thank you very much. Right now, I want to talk to you a little bit about our friends at Patterson's Electronics. Oh, my goodness sakes, yes, they have all your electronics needs. I urge you to get in there because they're going to be having money that's going to be garnered for your local charities. You go in, vote for the local charity of your choice, and then in June, I believe they're going to go until actually about July 15th. And with the purchases that you make at Patterson's Electronics, a percentage of the money is going to go to help fund those charities, and I believe they're going to give the top two charities $500 each. So get in there and shop, and remember, you're helping your local charities at Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley with Curtis and Lorena. They're open Monday through Saturday 9 to 6, and all your electronic needs, whether it's video surveillance cameras, complete sound systems, all the home theater systems, TVs, it's all there. Financing available at Patterson's Electronics in Burley. You stop in and see them today. Want to also give you a great big shout out. Yesterday would have been the day for Vicky's Country Garden, and of course we weren't on the air on Memorial Day. We're going to have a reschedule on that later this week and have her back on the air, but you can stop in and see her for all your gardening needs at Vicky's Country Garden, 185 South, 600 West of Paul. Number to call, 438-5663. And don't forget, Vicky's Country Garden right here on Zeb at the Ranch every Monday at 10:30. Want to also take a little moment here and talk about Jeff and the crew at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Hey, the big Memorial Day sale is going to continue for the rest of this week. I mean, mattresses. You're not going to believe the prices on mattresses. They have been slashed, and you need to get in and check it out today. All the living room sets, sofa love sets, my goodness, spring flooring specials, all your carpet at prices that are unheard of. Holy moly, start the car, Martha. All furniture 40 to 50% off at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. At 459 Overland in Burley, you stop in and see Jeff and the crew today. Right now, we're going to send it back over to our main studio. We'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
And thank you very much. Before we go to my guest, I want to remind you, too, about a great business opportunity for you. Yep. Somebody out there in the audience absolutely needs to listen up. Doug's Alternator and Starter Repair is for sale. The entire business, turnkey business ready for you at 635 21st Street in Hebron. And when I say turnkey, I mean a beautiful shop, all the equipment and the knowledge. Doug will train the buyer, the business, in rebuilding starters and alternators and repair service. I'm telling you, this man is good. This business is good for you. Check it out at 635 21st Street in Hebron, and the number to call is 878-4991. I'll repeat that number, 878-4991. Doug's Alternator and Starter Repair is for sale. You had better call today. There is a man that absolutely has been on my program numerous times. And why he's been on this program is because of a book that he had written, and it's called Inconvenient Facts, the Science That Al Gore Doesn't Want You to Know. And every day it seems like the left is doubling and tripling down on energy and the curtailment of energy and telling us we're all going to burn up and that all the ice is melting, etc. Well, here's a man with common sense and the common knowledge that we all should have as to what really is going on. And I say a good morning to Gregory Wrightstone. Good morning, Gregory. How are you?
Oh, good to be back with you, Zeb. Always love getting back on with you out there.
Well, I appreciate it. I was looking at some of the information sheets about having you back on my program, and the Global Warming Alarmists, a wonderful invite over to dinner for tea and crumpets type group. They are doubling down on their alarming news that we're all going to hell in a handbasket. What's going on?
Oh yeah, it's they're really looking at it. COVID-19 has sucked all the air out of the room in terms of media attention. It's really harmed the global warming alarmist crowd terribly, actually, I believe. But so they're having to redouble their efforts at pinpointing every single crazy, whacked out idea. Anything that looks odd or unusual, they're going to say, see. It's man-made climate change that's doing it, and we're all going to die unless we quit driving our vehicles. But we've seen this really in the last week and a half. There were several studies that came out that said that man is only able to survive within a very narrow range of temperatures, and we're going to go beyond that within the next several decades. Another one pointed at really interesting. They were contending that Antarctica is melting at an ever-alarming rate. And I took a look at it, and it turns out that the area of Antarctica that they were pointing to is called Western Antarctica in the Antarctic Peninsula. It comprises about 10% of the continent of Antarctica. The remaining 90%, and it's melting. We're losing ice there. That's a fact. The remaining 90% is either stable or increasing ice. And so I took a look. Of course, you know I'm a geologist, so I took a look at this from a geologic perspective to find out that this portion of Antarctica is actually one of the most geologically and volcanically active areas across the entire globe. And it's a rift system, so there's hot magma from deep in the mantle coming up, and so it's a source of heat. And so actually the ice in Antarctica there is melting from below. If it was climate change or global warming, we would see that, of course, that the ice would be disappearing top down from atmospheric warming.
Mm-hmm.
But it's being melted underneath, and it's due to geologic and volcanic forces. It's one of the most volcanically active areas in the entire Earth. But they don't mention that, do they? No, they want you to believe that it's this man-made catastrophic warming that's driving this melting in that one particular part of Antarctica. And we also see that parts of the northern polar ice caps have been shrinking for the last several decades. There's no doubt about that. But if you look where we're losing ice, there are also two other active, what we call rift zones, on either side where most of the melting loss of ice is taking place. So it again might be driven by these geologic forces rather accentuated by the current warming trend that we're in. And we are in a warming trend. We've talked many times, there's no one denies that, but it's been warming for more than 300 years. In the first 200 years, that had to be 100% naturally driven.
But, Greg, I'm going to stop you right there, and I'm going to interject something that was in your book, and it makes a lot of sense to me. On page 49, to let you know that I have highlighted and dog-eared this book ever since you sent it to me, you state that winter's coming. Is there another ice age on the way? Everything in the world's time, if you will, has been in transition. And I totally agree with you that we may be seeing some changes going the other way. What are your thoughts?
you may be right. But, again, from a geologic perspective, I like to look back at the past. I look back at geologic history, and I look back and see what happened before.
Yeah.
And if those same events are likely to recur. And we've seen that over the last several thousand years, these periods of warming and cooling. The other warming trends all ended up being warmer than where we are today, and not nearly all of them lasted a little bit longer than the warming trend we're in now. So from a geologic perspective, if what's happened in the past is probably going to occur again cyclically, then we may be in for another 60 or 80 or 100 years of warming. And I'm okay with that. But then I can argue the other side, which is what you're getting to. We're going into what they call the grand solar minimum. If this is really what's going to be driving temperatures, we could be looking at a cooling period coming up. Maybe not a big ice age, but maybe similar to what was the little ice age that occurred back from the year 1250 to about 1850, a very cold period. And if that does occur, as you know, we've talked, I'm a big proponent of the many benefits of warming temperatures, and it's the cold that we need to fear. It's terrible effects and relationships between cold and humanity, cold and mortality.
Right.
Don't fear the heat, fear the cold.
Amen. We have a caller with a question. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air, please.
I've got two quick questions, and then I'm going to hang up and listen off the air. First question is, what is their ultimate goal? What do these people want to accomplish? Where are they going with this? The second question has to do with, why don't we ever hear about the good effects of global warming, of the climate warming up? I mean, we get a little longer harvest season, plants seem to do better, and they do better with more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So those are my two questions.
Those are two excellent questions, and Greg, I'd really like you to elaborate on that. He brought up some excellent points.
The question as to why they're doing it is a loaded political question. And when I'm usually asked that question, I turn it back to the person that just asked it, because that fellow, I don't know what his name is, but he is just as qualified as I am to tell me why they're doing it. I mean, there are a lot of things we can name, but he's just as qualified. It's politically driven. We just saw with the COVID-19 that fear is a tremendous motivator, isn't it? And look what we've just done because we were scared to death. We've just destroyed our economy, millions of people out of work because we were so scared. And that's what they're trying to do. Part of the reasoning here, why they're looking and latching onto everything that's odd and unusual, is because they need to instill this climate of fear in people. Because they need this fear so people accept otherwise onerous and painful things like the Green New Deal, the Paris Climate Accord. These things would be horribly destructive to our economy, give us more higher energy costs. And the second part of that is they can't, if they talk about the many benefits of warming temperature and increasing CO2, then in effect, it's contrary to their goal of instilling fear. If you're talking about the benefits of modest warming and increasing CO2, particularly as it relates to agriculture, crop growth, we're setting new records year after year. Growing seasons are lengthening. CO2 is driving the enhanced crop growth. We see it all over the world with just Google NASA and greening and find out how much of the earth is increasing in vegetation. So I'm going to punt on the question of why they're doing it, because Zeb, you are just as qualified as I am. Why? I mean, we can have that discussion, but people come up with global governance. We've seen that. Recent webinar, they talked about climate change and COVID-19. What do we need to do? One of the people in this webinar was a fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations, the CFR. I think you know about them, don't you?
I sure do.
This Rockefeller-funded One World Global Governance Group, and that's what she said. When she talked about COVID-19 and climate change, she said these are very similar because they're both global problems that require global solutions. And so they're pushing this global solution of increasing taxation, which goes to the governments. The other thing we can talk about here that, all of our freedoms will need to be restricted with anything they're talking about. The Green New Deal. If you look at the costliest aspects of the Green New Deal have nothing to do at all with climate change, but rather global, universal salaries and things like that, health care. It's estimated to be almost $100 trillion that the Green New Deal will cost in the first 10 years. And about 85% of that $100 trillion has nothing to do at all with climate change.
Well, Greg, I think it goes... I think it goes without saying, and I've said this many times on my program, and I will continue to yell, scream, and holler, that when you have a world situation to where more people want what we have in this country as far as freedoms and basically a Bill of Rights and a Constitution like we have had and we're not honoring like we should anymore in this country, the ability to go here, go there, work here, do this, do that, that's what people want. And governments, very evil governments, know that in a way to control people is to take away the ability to travel. And when you take away the ability to travel and control them, whether it's through climate change or whatever, you have reached the ultimate to where your thumb's on them and they can't do a thing.
Well, we're seeing that here. I'm calling you from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and our governor. In fact, when I hang up here, I'm going to go for about 12-mile bike ride. My T-shirt that I wear, that I'm going to wear today, it says, "My governor is an idiot," and he wants to continue locking things down. And I mean, you have freedoms where you are that we don't have here, and it's incredible. They allow. I mean, we're still not. I mean, you can have Walmarts open, but you can't go to church. Well, there's more at play here than just this, and this is really just a trial run, I believe, for what the effects would be for the Green New Deal.
Well, if science and scientists are going to come out and say that this is the word, then why don't they administer the thought to the subheadline of your book, The Science that Al Gore doesn't want you to know? Why isn't this book in the schools? Why aren't they doing research? Why aren't teachers and professors studying and finding out on their own instead of falling in lockstep and just going along with the liberal left?
Yeah, well, they need to silence people like me. They've been very effective doing it. The book has been... Yeah, well, I'll tell you on a side note that has nothing to do with... But if you've got any of your listeners that are in sales and marketing, it's been fascinating to what my sales, just as we started getting the COVID-19s picking up, book sales across the board have crashed, and mine plummeted to 15% of what they were. And now they're trending back up to where they were. Because people were, and in particularly audiobooks, audibles, completely crashing. Just think about it. People usually listen to a book when they're driving. And nobody's driving. I mean, I don't know about you, but I get 3 weeks to the gallon.
Yeah.
And I'm just, but it's been just a relationship that I saw personally with this COVID-19 and us. But to go back to your point is they need to silence people. We're called climate change deniers, science deniers, and I know most of the skeptical scientists of great repute. I've never met a climate change denier. I've never met anybody that denies it's not happening. And we just question how much influence man has in our changing climate.
Yeah.
I'll argue strongly that it's very small, that our effect is greatly overwhelmed by those same natural forces that have been driving temperatures since the dawn of time, and will continue to do so.
Doesn't it scare you to the point where you get great big goosebumps worrying if, and I certainly hope it doesn't come to fruition, Joe Biden wins the presidency, he has already pointed at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a former Manhattan bartender, to be his energy czar. That makes me want to just run in a cave and pull the rock in after me.
Yeah, he's got her listed. He just named her, I think it might have been yesterday or the day before, as the chairman of his science and climate change task force that they were going to look into, make recommendations. We're going to have AOC leading the way on this crazy Green New Deal that she's pushing. And it's, you're right, it would be a scary thing for Joey. He wants to get rid of fracking. He wants to get rid of oil and gas. He wants to get rid of the things that really has made America great and has led billions, not millions, billions of people out of generational poverty around the world. And that's the world, the globe, America needs more inexpensive, reliable, affordable energy that's consistent, that we can rely on, that's affordable. We need more of it, not less. And his proposals and AOC's proposals will do just the opposite. It'll cost every single one of your listeners a lot more money, not just for energy, but everything that's created that uses energy, which is just about everything we buy, and the transport to get it there. It's going to go up. So that's what they want. They want people. And again, I'm just writing another section here on a Christian part of my new book, focusing on the Christian aspects of climate change. And you and I have talked before about this, is that there really is a Christian aspect, I believe, to this, because we are, if we were destroying the earth and it was our fault, then we as Christians, I'm just waving a broad brush because I believe probably a lot of your listeners are.
Absolutely.
We as Christians should have a responsibility to try and do everything we can to stop that. But if we look at it as I have done, we see what's actually happening in the real world is that the earth and humanity are benefiting from modest warming and increased CO2. That benefits everybody, and it benefits the poorest among us the most. So we see by just about every metric you can look at that things, put the COVID-19 behind us, but disrespecting that, just by every metric, humanity and the earth are benefiting. Of course, I've told you my philosophy is a one sentence. We should use all of Earth's resources for the betterment of mankind, and we should do it as good stewards.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, every time I have him on the air, I look forward to our conversation of common sense. And that's Gregory Wrightstone with his book called Inconvenient Facts, the science that Al Gore doesn't want you to know. And again, Greg, please tell my audience, where can the book be obtained?
Well, I advise, go to my website, inconvenientfacts.xyz. It'll take you to Amazon page there. Which is probably the easiest place you can buy it. But I've got some great videos and blogs and commentaries on there. You can learn. One I liked, if we just talked about Christianity, one that I'm really, it was comparing NOAA, NOAA, which is National Oceanographic and Atmospheric, with NOAA, NOAH, and the Ark. It's a fascinating look at how those, we can maybe talk about that the next time I'm on.
I'll look forward to it. Thank you, Gregory Wrightstone. Again, the book is called Inconvenient Facts, the science that Al Gore doesn't want you to know. Greg, God bless, take care, and we'll be getting in touch in the near future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zeb.
All right, sir. Excellent book. I've read this book and reread this book and read it again and highlighted it, and all of his points in there are extremely well written and well perceived, and it's science. It's not the gobbledygook that the liberal left is trying to throw at the wall and see if some of it sticks. Oh, the weather. Yes, the weather brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Telephone number to call, 324-7657. 7. Wow. I mean, a lot of you got together this weekend. A lot of you had family gatherings. Oh, yeah, I know you were social distancing and outside. Well, we did too. I'm not going to ever hide it. And delicious meats from Scarrow's Meats. Go to the website, check it out, scarrowsmeats.com. All the pork ribs and the tri-tips and the hams and the bacons and the sausages and the bratwurst. Oh, my goodness. You get a hold of them today. Scarrow's Meats in Jerome. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Mild conditions for today, but as we make our way through the week, it is going to be heating up. Here's a look at your weather forecast. We are expecting partly sunny skies today with a high near 77, a slight breeze out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. Tonight, partly cloudy skies with a low of about 54. Tomorrow, mostly sunny skies, warming up to 80. Overnight low of 52. By Thursday, sunny 86. Hold on to your hats for Friday. It is definitely warming up. Sunny skies, high of about 93. We are expecting 88 for Sunday, and as we start off the next work week on Monday, mostly sunny skies and 86. And that's what's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you very much, Gina, and brought to you by Scarrow's Meats. Don Scarrow and his excellent staff serving you at 331 North Road, Jerome. Had to hesitate, I dropped the paper. Don't forget the telephone number to call, 324-7657. They are at Scarrow's Meats, changing the way we eat one delicious bite at a time. Wow, I had fun this morning. A lot of good people, a lot of good guests, and let's see what's cooking for tomorrow on the program. Can you believe this is the last week in May? Holy moly. And then we go into June already? My goodness. Tomorrow we've got Dave Bigo, and we've got a lot of great guests on a lot of great subjects, and the reason I'm hesitating to tell you that is because I don't have the forms right here in front of me. But tune in, don't miss it. And then on Thursday, and I know it's going to be a short time, but next time on June 9th, it's going to be a lot longer. On this Thursday at 8:30 to 8:45, we will have Governor Little calling back in on Zeb at the Ranch at 8:30. I'm not going to be taking outside questions because it's such a short segment, but on June 9th, we will. And by the way, on June 9th, to put it on the calendar, he'll be here at 9:30. Right now, we're going to say that's it. We're going to wrap it up, put it back in the box, and open it up again tomorrow morning at 8:06. And we always say the way things were are the way things ought to be. And the 4 words that mean the most, in God we trust. I certainly hope you have a wonderful day, and enjoy. It's going to be warmer all through the week, and looking forward to it. God bless you. Have a good day. See you tomorrow morning. Zeb at the Ranch.